at this point, the 9 episodes, I think combined views, we have like 33 million or more views.
This is Pooja Tripathi, who amassed over 30 million views with 9 episodes of her scripted coffee shop series. After leaving her marketing job at Dior to pursue a career in acting, through her manager's encouragement, she started to utilize TikTok to showcase her comedic chops. While gearing up for the 2nd season of her self-produced series, Brian and I got to break bread with Pooja and discuss their relentless pursuit for opportunities.
The cold outreach has been like my strategy. It works.
So you're not scared?
No, because I mean, what are you gonna do? Just not do anything?
Ongoing transition to become a full-time content creator.
I am trying to find like the better balance of it because it does seem like this is gonna be a thing for a long time.
And of course, her ambitions to take her show to new heights.
TikTok will be investing more heavily into well-produced original content. Are you guys having any conversations with them internally?
All right, y'all. Let's peep the details.
This is like inspiring convo. I'm like, I need to get to work.
We'll get lunch. We'll order lunch in a little bit.
Yeah. So last time there was there were a few technical difficulties as we were doing this. So we're like extra vigilant about sound, how everything looks, you know?
Yeah.
Because we don't own this space. Like we have to set this up every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah. Oh, it would be a dream to just own a space and just be able to like never have to move the equipment and just keep everything the way that it is.
Totally.
Yeah. How do you do your stuff now? Because I see that you do a lot of, it's a production, like what you do. Like you do skits, like you have script, actors. If you could provide context on what goes into what you're creating.
Well, I started out just kind of doing the regular green screen, like TikTok stuff. Because I was like, well, this is the amazing thing about that is that you can just do it so easily in your apartment. You don't need anything. Like you just take a screenshot, it's your background, that's it. But after a while, you know, you just do the same thing over and over and over. Like if you're a creative person, you want to evolve and do something different. So I kind of started doing these coffee shop sketches, which were like, I think that's what you're talking about, the more high production value stuff. And I'm only able to do it because I have friends who luckily like fill all these roles. I have a really good friend who's an amazing DP. He has access to equipment. I just kind of cold emailed coffee shops. And this one in Williamsburg was down to let us shoot there. So yeah, I kind of just threw it together kind of in a scrappy way. But now I'm getting to the point where, you know, we're talking about doing like a season 2 of it. We have 9 episodes for like the season 1. And now we have to like formalize it a bit more because it is a lot of work for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just kind of came out of my friend being like, hey, you do these sketches in the coffee shop on green screen. Why don't we just do them in a real coffee shop and like have actors and have it be like a full sketch instead? And it's so fun to do that when you're doing things by yourself so much. It feels so much more fun to like collaborate with other people and improv.
Are you classically trained? Like, are you a theater? Like, do you write? Did you take acting? Like, what's your background?
I am not classically trained at all. But I do write and I'm an actor now, but I studied business and violin.
Wow.
So
what?
Yeah, I know. I went to Carnegie Mellon. I studied business and violin. I don't know. You never know where life is going to take you.
Yeah. Was it one of those, I mean, this is like such a trope, but like you have to do this to keep everyone happy at home. But then you actually really like doing that creatively or artistically or whatever. Was it one of those situations?
Kind of. I was like already on my 3rd, like not making people happy thing by then. Because like I already wasn't going to go to med school. I already wasn't going to do like any of the other stuff. So this was like, I don't know, business is vague. I didn't even really know what it meant. I was like, business, whatever. Like I'll do that. That's vague. So I don't have to decide yet pretty much. Yeah. And I worked in fashion first. I worked like in corporate. And
wait, hold on. What were you doing in fashion, corporate?
I did like marketing. My last job was at Dior in digital marketing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I did all of that. And the way that I got into all of this is I made a show. So I met this friend of mine like in the club in Saint-Tropez when I was like in college. She came to New York to study acting. And then she was like, I want to make a show. I think we should make it together. And you should just like quit your job and we should make this show. And that just sounded so fun. Like my job was just, I wasn't really good at the cubicle thing. Like, it just didn't work for me. I wanted it to work for me because that's just easier if you can just make that work for you. But I couldn't do it, and it was just kind of not the best situation at work. So I was like, yeah, all right, I'll just like quit, I guess, and we'll just make this show and we'll just see what happens. Anything to keep me out of corporate, like I'll do anything.
How many years ago was that?
So we made this show. It was like, it came out right before the pandemic. I think 2018 is when we started to make it.
So the show was actually the catalyst for you doing social.
Yeah. Well, we made the show. It's like a 6-episode web series, and it takes place in the Netherlands and here. So we did that. We wrote it together. We produced it. I acted in it. It was the first time I ever acted. It was really fun. And then I got managers and agents from that.
Wow. So the show must have had some traction.
The show had traction. We kind of made the traction happen though. Like I was just coming out of corporate, like working in marketing. So I just did all the same stuff, but for us. So we did like a screening tour. I reached out cold to so many people to get a manager. Like I just reached out, just to see if it would work.
What was the name of the show?
Amsterdam Ave. It's on YouTube. It's still on YouTube. It's kind of funny. It feels like I did this a million years ago because it was just the first like kind of beginning thing.
Okay. Can't wait to check it out. And then let's talk a little bit about, so when you were looking for a manager, who'd you reach out to? What did that process look like? Is there a comp where you're like, I see what this person has done. If they have that blueprint, I'd like to walk through that process for us.
That sounds amazingly smart and strategic. I was more like, I was kind of thinking like, I so recently worked in corporate. Like if I can manage to pull this off, it would be shocking to me. Like I didn't have super high hopes because I wasn't trained. My friend was, she went to acting school. I wasn't. So I didn't know what was possible. And I think because of that, I was like less scared because it's not like I was in the industry having like all these teachers tell me you have to do this.
Ignorance is bliss sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, whatever, like I'll just email everyone. Like I just got a list. I went on IMDb Pro where you can get the emails. And I just made a list of people that I thought would be good, like based on the management company, based on who they repped. And then I did like a bunch of meetings after that and I started working with my manager.
Well, I mean, that was strategic. I mean, very strategic. Yeah.
It was strategic, but I reached out to a lot of people.
Okay.
Yeah. And I did the same thing to get a commercial agent. I kind of did the same thing a lot. The cold outreach has been like my strategy. That's been the strategy.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah.
I mean, it works.
So you're not scared.
No. Because, I mean, what are you going to do? Just not do anything and then just sit there? Like, then nothing will happen. If you don't do anything, nothing will happen. But if you try, the worst that can happen is also nothing.
So by then you had already quit your corporate job.
Yeah.
And you were just trying to pursue a career in acting.
What we did for Amsterdam Ave, I produced, I wrote, I was acting. I didn't know what was really possible for me, like at the time. I just was like, this is all cool. This is all so much more fun than my old job. I don't know what I'll actually, like what will work for me, what will stick. So I was kind of open to like whatever would keep me in entertainment and out of corporate. But then when I got a manager, I was pretty surprised, but I was like, okay, cool. I guess this worked. And then I was like really set on proving to him that like they made the right choice. Any suggestion that I was given, I was like, okay, I'm going to like really do this to show that, even though I didn't go to acting school and even though I was kind of new to all of this, that it was like the right choice. So then the first suggestion was make a TikTok. Maybe you could try to do comedy. And I remember he was like, comedy is going to be your bread and butter. And I was like, what? Like, I just thought that was so funny because no one had ever said that to me before. I wasn't like a comedian, like growing up or anything. So I was like, all right, I'll try.
A comedian.
I wasn't a comedian. I feel like a lot of people, they're like the funny person.
Yeah,
and
they're the
like
class clown.
The class clown. Yeah, I was like into fashion. I mean, I think I was like funny casually,
right.
but not like formally funny. So yeah, I didn't know how it would go. And then I just tried everything I could on TikTok I think for like a month or two, I posted every day. I just made it an exercise. Like, let me just think of something to post. And then eventually something went viral, and then another thing went viral, and it was like the sketches about New York that were going viral.
What was the first thing that went viral?
I think it was this video about the subway. It was like a sketch about, I like did a voiceover to be the subway voiceover, and it was about like just how you kind of like, if you don't pay attention, you're going to end up in New Jersey.
Right. Okay.
That was, I think, the first thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I was like just making stuff that was based on what I saw around me, which is obviously I live in New York.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what stuck.
So the question is, you decided to step away from a corporate job that was paying you a consistent paycheck.
Yes.
What was like, did you have like a savings before you decided to jump into this? I mean, acting is not known for its lucrative ROI initially, right? So, how, like, what kind of preparation did you have to, like, did you do for yourself before you decided to make this leap?
Well, for one thing, I was lucky that I was paid to be part of this production. Like the show that I made, I was paid to be part of that. So that made it possible, basically. But as soon as that was over, I had to basically scramble to find like, I had some savings and I had to find part-time jobs. And yeah, at first that was like, I didn't really know about this option of like a part-time remote job. And now that's like a common thing, but this was like right before the pandemic, which it wasn't as much of a common thing then. And since I had this resume in marketing, I was kind of like, maybe I can just piece something together. And I had and still have a part-time job. It's like I work at a performing arts nonprofit. I do their social media and their marketing. And I do like 15, 20 hours a week for them. So in the beginning, I think I did a little more. It was more like 25. And I was just kind of like, hopefully this is good enough, like as I do all the other stuff. And I was really lucky to find this job though. I found it right before the pandemic. It was fully remote. And everyone that works there is kind of an artist. So if I have to audition or if I have to, last week I did I booked this commercial. If I have to go off and do stuff like that, they allow me to do it, which is I'm very grateful for that, because otherwise I don't know how, we all have to find creative ways, I guess, to make it work before the content creator stuff starts to like really pick up.
And are you doing on the full-time creators? Well, I guess you're a full-time creator, but you still have a part-time job, I guess.
Yeah.
A very flexible sort of a dream scenario in that regard.
Yeah.
Are you doing brand deals? Are you making money from being a creator?
Yeah. So brand deals, I would say like a couple months into TikTok, brand deals started happening. And then like the next year, it was like a big part of what I do. So yeah, I've done a bunch of brand deals with places like, I don't know, I've done Starbucks.
Oh, wow.
Target, TaskRabbit. I did TJ Maxx this year. What else? The Weather Channel.
All the well-known corporate
big brand.
mass America retail chains.
Yes, I had like an ongoing partnership last year with Kiehl's, the skincare brand.
Yeah,
that's great.
That was a good one. So yeah, I've done.
What was your first one?
The first one was, it's like this, you know, like the link in bio link that there's like different options of like the link you could put in your bio.
Yeah.
So there's one called BioLink.
Okay.
And that was my first one. That was now a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And
Do you recall the first check that you got for your brand deal?
Yeah, it was exciting. It was for that.
How much was it? Can you tell us?
I think it was like $500.
Okay.
And you were over the moon.
Yeah, because it was like I think I didn't even have like, maybe I had like 10,000 followers, and I didn't know this was gonna be. My manager was like, just try it.
10,000 where? TikTok or Instagram?
TikTok.
Okay.
Instagram, I had like 2,000. I didn't have like anything on Instagram yet, so. It started out with like, just find your voice. My manager was like, find your voice, like your acting, your creative voice, like your point of view, your comedic point of view. Mm-hmm. And if you can do that on TikTok, that'll be cool. But then when it was like, oh, there's brand deals, oh, this can actually be a job, this can like make me money, I was surprised. I was really surprised. And now I'm still surprised. I'm surprised at every stage.
Yeah.
Because it's just crazy how quickly things change with this job.
How quickly did it change? So you started in 2018, and then when did you get your first brand deal?
So 2018 is when I started making this show. The show came out in 2019. 2020, I got my first manager. 2021, I got
your first
another manager, and like
Okay.
that's the manager that just said I should do TikTok. So I started TikTok in 2021.
Okay.
So it was already in the midst of was already like pandemic, where the lockdown has already kind of faded out.
Yeah.
By the time you started TikTok.
Yeah, the lockdown had kind of faded out. So I was a little later. I know a lot of people started like in the 2020 lockdown.
Yeah.
Me, I started March 2020, a day after my birthday, which I think was like March 24th. Yeah.
Whoa, so you started like right during lockdown.
Yeah.
Which is all the restaurants were closed though.
Exactly.
He was cooking.
I was cooking.
And you were cooking.
I was cooking.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I kind of wish I had started sooner, but I needed someone to give me that idea, I think.
Yeah.
Because I didn't think I could do comedy. I just had never really given that a real thought until someone legit was like, you can do that.
The first brand deal you got was $500. Can you tell us the biggest brand deal you've gotten?
Yeah. The biggest one I think was Starbucks. It was like a TikTok commercial, but I had say over, it was a collaboration. It wasn't like, usually I write a sketch, I write something funny and I post it on my account. Sometimes they'll post it on their account. It just depends. This was like, they had a holiday campaign with a bunch of creators. They came up with the concept and I got to decide kind of like within the framework of the concept, like what I wanted to do and like what I would wear. But there weren't lines. Like it was like they came up with it and we shot it in their studio and everything. It was really fun.
So you were a talent. You got booked as a talent.
Yeah, and that's happening more and more now. Like there's TikTok commercials now. I just did that last week for Oreo. I did like a TikTok commercial, but I booked that through my commercial agent. So I feel like traditional stuff is like the line between traditional and the digital stuff is like really blurring now.
Yeah.
So I'm really glad that I did this.
Definitely.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been booked. I haven't been.
We don't do any of that.
Yeah, I haven't been offered any of those talent deals.
Well,
They're asking me like, "Yo, make the video, distribute it, do
Yeah.
everything for us." You know what I mean?
I think if you wanted to do like acting, it would be different because you'd have like an agent who could put you out for things. Like the Oreo thing, I just auditioned for that like normal.
Yeah.
And maybe you kind of never know, but you know, you're told by your people like it's helpful to do TikTok and that people look at it, casting looks at it, but you never really know like what their process was.
The overall vibe is that like you kind of just went into it, but I definitely I can see like high level thought and strategy into like, I'm very surprised how quickly you were, as someone that never wrote like comedy and you're just doing it, you're performing at such a high level. Is there anything else? Did you write for the school newspaper? Did you take classes? Like you're just like, it's so fast so far.
It is fast.
Yeah.
I guess so. You know, it doesn't feel fast when it's you.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like to me, 2018 to now, it's like 6 years, but I know that that's not actually long in this industry. Yeah.
I guess it's twofold.
question.
Number one, like, I just want to give you props at how good the stuff is when I watch it, right? And then number two, like, if you have any advice for people, how'd you get so good so quickly?
I mean, I think growing up, the most creative thing I did growing up really was violin. I was like really serious about the violin. I do think that there's something about like if you perform in one way, believing that you could perform in another way. Like I got pretty far with violin and that was like a big thing for me. So then what I have to give some credit to my friend who kind of pulled me into this. Like she was really enthusiastic. She was like, I want to write this show. I think that you and I could write this together. And I was doubtful. I was like, I've never done this. I don't know. And she was like, no, like, I think we could do it. I think you just have to have the step one is like a person to believe in you. And if that didn't happen necessarily growing up, if it wasn't a thing that came up then, I was in the school play. So maybe that counts for something. I was in The Importance of Being Earnest. And I was the lead. So it happened one time. I mean, I was in it once, but still, I think having someone to believe in you and be like, this is like a thing you could do. And then you either rise to the occasion or you maybe don't like it. It's not for you. I think it happened when she brought me into working on Amsterdam Ave, and then it happened again with the manager being like, you could do comedy, try doing comedy on TikTok, let's see. And I was like, well, if someone thinks I could do it, you know, maybe I could do it.
And maybe also is because you're not classically trained and you don't have these type of pre-existing notions about how an acting career is supposed to play out, right?
Yeah.
So for instance, like when you see someone who went to school for acting, okay, like you got to do these plays where you got to do this type of roles and you need to get an agent, and then, you know, you kind of conserve yourself from exposing yourself too much on social media because making skits might be looked down upon by the traditional acting community. You know what I mean? Like, whereas like you didn't have any of those type of thoughts where even like, yeah, you didn't have those type of concerns because you were like, yo, like I started with nothing and I started on YouTube. You ended up having more opportunities and visibility than somebody who might be essentially stuck in this notion of what a traditional actor should be.
Yeah, I think it helps to not have an idea, because I think I heard from a lot of people, like, if you want to get representation, you have to get a reference, and you basically can't reach out cold. When I reached out cold, I had a lot of people respond to me and say, we never respond to these emails. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, you did just now. Like, what do you mean?
Nah, I love that. I love that. I love that attitude. You know what I mean?
What's your process like with your manager? Does your manager work for a big company, independent? What can you share?
Yeah, he works for Mosaic, so it's a pretty big company. And I mean, really, with this stuff, he just gave me like the first seed of like something that I think is helpful. I think for me in particular, since I didn't go to school for this, and I did like a UCB improv class in the beginning.
Okay, there you go.
So that was, I think, helpful. I did when we were writing Amsterdam Ave, we had like somebody who was a talented writer who kind of like guided us, said to read this book, do that thing. So there was a period of time of like reading some books, taking some classes, nothing like super formal, but just kind of self-learning. And so then my manager, it's more like he guides like the bigger picture of the career, which I think in lieu of having like any professors, at the time I didn't even have any peers. Like I didn't know any other actors. I knew people that worked like in fashion and beauty and from CMU, like people that worked in business. But I think without all of those things, having someone to just be like, okay, you joined this in a non-traditional way. Here's some ideas of like things you could do. Let's see what you can take and run with it. And then TikTok was a thing that I like really ran with.
What's your comp? Like, what do you want to, like in 5 years, what's the career arc that you want to follow?
Well, the industry is changing so much. And obviously last year we had the writer's strike and the actor's strike. So the industry is really changing. I think originally what I would have said to that is like, it'd be amazing to have a sketch show or like, an HBO Max, like comedy, something like that. But now things are changing so quickly. Digital is becoming so much bigger and there's so many more opportunities in that. Like that's kind of why I started the coffee shop, was like, I got together with the team. We were like, hey, what if we do like high production value stuff for TikTok? I don't think we've seen that a lot. And I think that it feels like there's a lot of opportunity in that. And now we're hoping to kind of get like bigger and bigger people on that for like the season 2. And I could see a world in which, we work with a brand, we get paid to do that. And we keep doing that like a show, but for TikTok. I don't know where things are headed, but I think either of these routes would be really cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Issa Rae's whole
Yeah, so Insecure, you could see that. I could see High Maintenance as a comp, right?
Yeah,
Something that starts online.
That was YouTube.
Broad
City.
But then I mean, in your example, you're indexing into TikTok.
Yeah.
Which, I haven't really seen that many original scripted content existing on TikTok.
And that's kind of why I'm excited about it, because it feels like a thing that hasn't been done a lot yet. And it's pretty rare to think of something that, I mean, everything is happening all the time.
Yeah, I think the pitfall there is though, like, and I'm just curious, is that a means to getting on, or is it a means to change? So what I mean by that is, you have tons of people that have started on YouTube maybe 15 years ago, and their whole thing is like build a huge following, build a huge presence. They're literally doing like sketch comedy, right? And then they use that as a way to get on TV, because for them, TV is sort of the promised land, and then you're validated, right? And then fast forward 5 years ago, you start online, you use YouTube, but then you still need to get on HBO Max, right? I think that TikTok is TikTok, like that. If you're strong on TikTok, that will be the thing.
Right.
And now when HBO comes to you and says, "Hey, can you turn this into a 22?" My view on these things is that 22 is essentially just a different form and a different distribution to a whole different people, rather than it is like, oh, we made it, we got this deal. Like the TikTok money will be bigger than the HBO money.
Right.
Like that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that is why my answer to this has changed. Like I think in the beginning it was like, it'd be amazing to have a show or be cast, and I just want to be part of like cool projects that are high quality, that I think are funny, and whatever way that goes. But I think now, like what's possible on TikTok and Instagram, what's possible is so different, and it's changing all the time. And if I can get ahead of it at all, or if I can do something that's kind of new, because Because then, yeah, you kind of basically take out the middleman, as we've already seen everyone does like on YouTube and TikTok already. But I think the idea of doing that for like a scripted series that's like high production value, that I'm excited about.
Totally.
So I'm curious. What's up?
Do you want to order food now?
Yeah, sure. Let's do that. I'll take the salmon.
That
joint.
was good.
Yeah.
Both of you?
Maybe I'll get that too.
Pooja, what's your cultural background?
I'm Indian. Both my parents are Indian.
Like which part of India?
So my dad is from UP, Uttar Pradesh, and then my mom's
Is
side
that
is
north,
from,
south, east, west?
It's north.
Okay.
And then my mom's side is from Mumbai.
Okay. Got you.
I actually just got back from India. I've only been there twice. And I just got back from like this wedding in December.
Do you speak Hindi or?
No,
Okay.
I don't. And that's why I was like really happy to go a second time, because I feel like I wish I knew more, you know?
Right, right.
I loved your video on a second generation going back to the motherland, that experience. I thought that I mean, sure, it's you're going back to India, but like that's super relatable to anybody.
Yeah, that was based on like this trip.
Yeah.
Because I was there and I was like, oh my God. I felt like almost embarrassed about how hard it was for me. Because it was hard. It wasn't easy. Like I went to Delhi, the air in Delhi, like the air pollution in Delhi is insane.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Your eyes were burning.
yeah, I like still have a cough a little bit. I got back like a month ago. So I was like, why can't I handle this? Like I should be able to handle this. I'm technically from here.
Yeah.
And I got sick and everything.
Yeah,
which,
you're.
you know.
I mean, yeah, you're biologically. Yeah, you have your DNA is rooted from there, but it doesn't mean that you grew up with toxic air. You know
No,
what I
I
mean?
know. And that's the thing. It's like that cultural guilt though, where it's like, I don't speak Hindi. I don't like, and now I'm here and I can't even go outside for like 5 minutes without being like out of commission. Like I should be able to handle this. But it's true. That's not, and I feel like that is what gave me the idea for this video. I was like, I can't be the only person that feels that way.
Definitely. Yeah.
You know?
Before slight interruption about ordering our lunch, and per se the name of the podcast, Creators Lunch. We always feed our creators when they visit us.
And we're hungry, so thank you.
Yeah. So the point that I wanted to make was to your point about how TikTok is going to be the thing, whereas no longer just a stepping stone into TV or movies. Do you guys see a world, you know, like how I guess like Hollywood actors, occasionally they have to do that one Broadway play
Yeah.
and for like critical acclaim and shit. You know what I mean? Do you guys see that eventually is going to be a point where that actor is going to be known for YouTube and that actor is going to be known for TikTok, but occasionally you might want to do a TV play just because you want to get that critically acclaimed, you know, little line that, you know, like checked off in your to-do list. Like, do you guys see a world that that's how it's going to be?
Yeah, I'm on wax saying that. I think that, you know, every time there's a new medium coming up, they always try to dismiss that medium and say, it's
That's not real.
no, they're doing TV now.
Yeah.
You know, but before that, they're on radio. What is this TV thing? And then before that, it's always going to be like that. And right now, people are saying, "Oh, they're making silly dancing videos on TikTok, right?" Yeah. And or they're, you know, so it's just it's human nature to sort of dismiss the new thing that's going to come. But at the end of the day, it's all about minutes. It's all about time. So, you know, my kids, they think they're going to spend 30 minutes watching, you know, Mr. Beast, or they could spend 30 minutes watching something on Netflix. For them, it's literally the same. But it's about the economics of how that's produced, how frequently it's produced, all these other things. But the reach and the time ultimately is the same. So if anything, it's more powerful. You know, the only thing statistically, the only thing that actually matters as far as appointment viewing now is like Jimmy and Mr. Beast, right? He drops a video every Saturday at like 12 o'clock. He does more viewership that day than the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Like, so you could dismiss it as like clickbait, whatever, sensationalized, you know, whatever. But at the end of the day, like that's how many people watched it, right? So I think the trap, though, in my opinion, is that the savviest and the smartest folks with managers, they're saying, and they know that, and you can still extract as much money as you can by doing the occasional Broadway play, by doing the occasional New York Times piece, by doing the occasional like, oh yeah, I'll be talent on this show to make sure that I'm in front of a new audience, right? And exploit and try essentially just try to maximize that, but then own and do the other thing that's still your bread and butter. I think the problem, like, you know, like the problem that you run into a lot is people would blow up on YouTube or blow up on TikTok or blow up on Instagram, and then they're like, cool, I made it. And then they try to do a TV show, like a late night show or something, or they try to launch a thing and that fails. And then they're like, oh, where did they go? Like, I think that's a problem. I think if they're like, hey, no, we're going to continue to do this and this will be our thing, but then sure, we'll do the TV thing, but we're going to do it completely on my terms, our terms, then I think it works.
So, but the question with TikTok though, the whole concept of appointment viewing with TikTok is a little bit tricky because you're essentially like the algorithm gods.
I know.
Like,
sure.
Those
you know,
gods
like
are
decide
ruling.
how you perform. So especially, you know, with someone like you, like if the production is low, the barrier of entry for production is low. Yeah, sure. If this video pops, great. But if it doesn't, great. Like I could just make another one. And that was, I think, up until this point, the beauty of TikTok.
Yeah.
Whereas if you are spending weeks on one particular video and you put all that effort into that particular video and your main content channel is TikTok and it doesn't perform, like with someone like you, like, I mean, it seems like for season 2, like you're putting a lot of energy behind this. Like how do you plan on attacking this?
Well, so season 2, there's a whole plan. Basically, season 1 was kind of like, we don't know how this is going to do. So we made the first 4 episodes actually relatively easily because my friends were the crew. I didn't spend any like money on it. Mm-hmm. We all just did this for free. You know, everything was free. So, you know, just you bought a few props. It didn't take me that long to write because the thing is, yeah, it's an episode, but it's an episode that's a minute and a half long.
Right.
That's like a 2-page script. So it was work for sure, but it was also really fun. And then on set, we did a lot of improv. We did a lot of, we really shot, I think we shot like 2 episodes in one day. We only had a couple hours in each day because it had to be after the coffee shop closed. So at that time, it was still like pretty low amount of, you know, we were like, let's just see, it's a test. Then it got millions of views. Like at this point, the 9 episodes, I think combined views, we have like 33 million or more views. So it then did really well. And then we were like, okay, now that we know this did really well, let's like see what we can do about this. Because we know this format, the 2 baristas, different customer every single time. We know this format is working. So the next season, we're trying to get funding. I just would love to be able to pay everyone.
Totally.
That's like my main thing.
I think what you have, when I saw that series, I'm like, it's, if you want to go way back, that you basically have Clerks, right? Have you seen that? Clerks? You should watch it.
I haven't seen Clerks.
Yeah. So that's a generational thing probably. Yeah. But Kevin Smith, Clerks, exactly the same thing. Like that vibe, literally, you don't know Tower Records either, right? That coffee sketch, the series related to me because it's the sort of like ambivalent, aloof, sort of like, you know, like there's a culture around that resonated with me. And then that gave me total flashbacks to the record store. I used to collect records, and when you go in, it's like high fidelity, John Cusack, all that kind of writing where it's like like there's an elitism, right?
Yeah.
Like because they care. So so you should care too. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And Clerks is like that.
Yeah, exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I mean, I think the Tower Records example is a better. Like, I'm more familiar with that.
Virgin Records.
Yeah, Virgin. Yeah, so it's just you go into these type of record stores and then you're asking like, "Yo, can I get that particular album?" And then they kind of roll their eyes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like,
and then I saw that energy in your coffee skits. You know, it's like
we were like influenced also by Portlandia, like
100%.
love Portlandia.
Yeah,
like they just have so many sketches like this, and I think it's cool that everyone kind of relates to this energy because I feel like that makes it a little less niche. Even if I like making a lot of niche jokes because it's just, you know, from my experience, but it's nice if more people like relate to it and get it.
Totally. Yeah. I think that's your interesting challenge in front of you. I think the more niche you can be, ironically, the more universal it is, right? Like I read Seth Rogen talking about how he wrote Superbad, and they had all these like crazy, like very specific jokes, like the guy drawing penises or like whatever it was, and they're like, dude, no one's gonna get that. That's way too niche, right? And they're like, no, the more truth you can tell through your own experience, and the more like precise it could be, oddly more people like that because it feels real, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, with the coffee shop, you know, how do you make sure that like this isn't a San Francisco, New York, LA, Seattle, like, you know, elite sort of like coffee culture, third wave coffee culture only people, like how is everyone going to relate to it?
I think that's with the customers. Like we had an episode where like a Southern tourist comes in, or like, I think the fun thing about this is like, we understand the world of the coffee shop. Now let's throw different people in there. And depending on who is being thrown in there, like if you're from not one of these like cities, you might agree more with like the customer that comes in and is like, what is this?
That's genius. I didn't even put
exactly.
that.
That was the thing that I wanted to point it out. Like, because the customers could essentially be the mouthpiece for the rest of the world.
Right. And then it's kind of a funny thing when somebody that maybe thought they would relate more to the coffee shop people hears the customer say something and is like, oh, wait, that's actually kind of a good point. Because we have to be able to make fun of ourselves too.
100%.
Totally.
And like, we obviously, like the coffee shop thing, these baristas are also ridiculous. I think that's the thing. Everybody is ridiculous in the sketch. Sometimes we have somebody acting just normal and the baristas are more ridiculous. But like, I think that's another fun part about it, is that if you're able to laugh at your own perspective too, I mean, that's just
Totally
life. Like you should be able to.
Yeah.
So we could kind of go through the questions. So I have two questions. Number one is, we're very bullish that TikTok will be investing more heavily into well-produced original content, which is, you know, like you kind of seeing hints of that with them pushing for minute plus long, where now they're pushing for 10-minute content, right? So essentially that's the trajectory that they would have to take in order for them to become more of a monetizable platform for creators.
They want to sell mid-roll.
Yeah. So having said that, your type of content would be perfect for what they're looking for. Are you guys having any conversations with them internally about, you know, essentially that, we're trying to produce this show? Because my guess is that their in-house team would want to essentially help push a content like this.
That hasn't happened yet, but you know
Okay.
what? Maybe it will. I think it feels like it's all so new, like what we're doing. Maybe that's where it will get in a year or something. But I think if that is the trend, and it seems like it is, then it's a good moment for this type of concept. But it hasn't happened yet.
Okay. And my second question is all it is being distributed on your channel as in Pooja, or do you guys have a separate channel for the show?
So right now it was all on my channel, but I think we're going to have to make another channel for the show, because I also on Instagram, like they get pushed down. Every time one of the coffee shop episodes gets pushed down in my feed, I like have a little heart attack, because it's like, I want that stuff to be at the top, but you have to keep making content. So I think we're going to make a new account on TikTok and on Instagram, do collab posts on Instagram, and then TikTok have like a show account.
How many followers do you have on TikTok right now?
Just under 60K.
Okay.
And same on Instagram.
So your followers didn't grow, but the view count on these particular pieces of content were millions, astronomical.
Nine videos, 30 million. So what's the largest video? Like 10 million?
The first one that we ever did had like, I think on TikTok it was like 3.5 million, and on Instagram it was like 10, maybe 10 or 7 or 8 million, I think.
Okay.
And my following did grow. I think I got like maybe 15,000 followers, or maybe 15 or 20,000 followers from this coffee shop.
I want to know what the 10-year goal is, and then what do you need for that 10-year goal right now?
I think
and it could even be 5. It doesn't even have to be
10 year, like I don't even know what a kind of person I'll be in 10 years.
I mean, I could see you being like Shonda Rhimes or like owning a studio, green lighting and producing other people's stuff, but then also being very in the weeds of producing stuff that you're very passionate about. I mean, I could see, you created this coffee shop series, right? Like you're a showrunner, right? You're a showrunner,
Right.
The way I look at it, right? You're also an actor. You're a producer, right? You do all of these. You probably directed too, right? So there's all these different things, right? But then on top of that, you know, and that's the elevated world. But at the same time, if you could, you know, continue to knock out the green screen type stuff or the stuff that's more high frequency, then you stay relevant as a creator day to day. So I can see you doing stuff that's very much like, you know, I'm trying to think of someone on Instagram or on TikTok that does like sketches, but I
That
don't know.
has
I'm
really
blank.
made it into a production house. I haven't seen any examples of that yet.
I think Pooja, I think you're the next generation of that, actually, right?
Yeah.
I think like before all this TikTok stuff happened, I could have said that, yeah, I would love to have like my own show. I would love to be involved producing other people's shows for like the traditional format, which again, like I'm like down for the traditional format too. I would love to be in shows. It's not like that's the thing I don't want, but I don't have control over that. I just have to audition or, you know, see what happens. This I have control over. And I think the idea of having the coffee shop is the first like TikTok show, we'll call it. I could see myself having a few of these, maybe one that's like narrative and not just sketch. Maybe that'll be a thing that can happen. Maybe there, like you said, maybe there are some that I could produce but not necessarily be in, while I still have other ones that I'm in. Kind of all of that, but like with TikTok, Instagram as the platform, I think could be possible. I wouldn't say that's my 10-year goal. I think that's the thing I'm working on now. But things are changing so quickly in this space that I feel like creating my own stuff with in a high quality way with like high quality creators that I'm collaborating with, I think that is like the general goal. I'm getting paid for it. Whatever medium it is, kind of doesn't really matter as long as people are seeing it and, you know, I'm able to like sustain myself with it.
Let's talk about who's seeing it right now. What's your demographics? What if you could walk through like the psychographic of someone that tunes in and watches your videos? What's that look like?
So I have like a very largely New York following. On TikTok, I think it's like 85% New York. Instagram, it's probably more like 20, but that's still pretty high.
Do you see a gender split?
Yeah, on TikTok, it's much higher female. I think maybe around 70%. On Instagram, it's almost 50-50. So it's a lot of people in cities like New York, LA. Interestingly, on Instagram, I have like, I think 6% in Mumbai, which I was surprised by because, you know, it's like pretty American content, but I thought that was kind of cool.
But then they also speak English.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, they speak English. I wouldn't have known. I think maybe just because I'm Indian, like maybe that's enough to like appeal, which is cool.
Did it happen with the travel content when you went out there, or did it happen before?
It was before.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was before. I think, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people, maybe they were in the US for school or like, so, and I also think sometimes with the New York content, I don't know if you find this too, because obviously you're here doing New York content, but I think sometimes people like, even if they don't live in New York, even if they don't visit a lot, they're curious about what's going on in New York.
I get a glimpse of it in like English speaking, you know, terrains. So for instance, I was in Portugal last year and then I got recognized by 3 different people, one Canadian, one Brit, and one Australian.
Whoa.
You know, so it was
That's
like
cool.
that was interesting. But then coincidentally, like yesterday we were walking down, like Sung and I, we were walking down like downtown Manhattan. Got recognized by maybe like 5, 6, 7 people, you know, and very thankfully it has been like almost a daily occurrence the past 18 months ever since like Righteous Eats became a very well-known channel within New York. But I go to Philly, which is like an hour and a half away, which is like no different than like taking a train to the Bronx essentially. Like nobody knows who I am.
I have a similar experience.
So it's like, yo, like it's so close, but the algo essentially just circulates.
Here,
You know, here.
Yeah. I
You know
have
what
the
I mean?
exact same, like it's like in New York, I think, you know, I don't have like hundreds of thousands of followers.
Right.
But I think the experience I'm having like in New York is almost as if I did, just because so many of them are here versus if like this following was split up across the country. And yeah, then if I go to like, if I would go to Philly, I don't think anyone would recognize me in Philly.
The other interesting thing is Jaeki did a lot of like international content. So whether he was in Kenya or in Colombia or in Turkey, there would be, or in Korea for that matter, there would be spikes. That's why I was asking, did it change when you actually went? Because he would go there, he would just on, you know, holiday, vacation, whatever. And then once he started making content there, we'd get a huge spike because, you know, Kenyans were like, oh man, this is so cool. And then now we get a bunch of new followers from there.
But it's also interesting. It's also predicated on the countries that are less culturally visible in the Western world.
Yeah.
So for instance, if I did something content about Paris, like no Parisian's gonna give a fuck. You know what I mean? Whereas like I did, you know, we did a bunch of content on
CDMX,
Colombia.
yeah, Mexico's kind of, Colombia I think is kind of in that mix too.
Yes and no, because like I think the Colombians, especially Colombian Americans or Mexican Americans, they feel like, yo, somebody who doesn't look like us is showing love to our culture. Whereas I think like
but
a major Western European city,
True.
like Paris, like they're like, yo, it's another Asian tourist. You know what I mean?
Yeah. CDMX is the one that sticks out to me because, dude, that's basically like Williamsburg South.
No,
you know
but we
saying?
also
like,
did that before it became what it is today.
Okay,
like that was back in like 2020.
Yeah, okay.
Also, TikTok is banned in India. So like I was posting on Reels. I wasn't really posting
So
that
a
much
bunch
while
of
I was
people on
there.
VPN, like just peeping the
Yeah.
details.
I mean, these people are on Instagram. Like the people in India that are watching my content are on Instagram.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're like fully banned on TikTok.
They're probably on, do you have a YouTube channel? You should.
No, I know I need to do it.
No, you're gonna, you know, more people watch YouTube in India than like everyone watches TV around the world. Like it's crazy.
Yeah.
Like
I just haven't been able to. The thing is, there's like the 1 minute limit for shorts.
Yeah,
we don't
59
know about it.
seconds.
We literally have editors that have to cut
Down to
one that's 1 minute and one so that we can monetize on TikTok, and then it has to be 59 seconds on YouTube. And the thing is, we put it off for so long, and we both got to the point where like, this is dumb. Why aren't we doing this? We made it a priority, and now we've been growing the YouTube very, very quickly.
Yeah, so within the last 6 months, we were able to grow we were like at like 70,000 followers.
We probably
right?
grew
Wow.
60,000
Yeah.
That's
in the
amazing.
last 3 months.
Yeah, just because we indexed into shorts, which we should have
Yeah.
done. You know what I mean? But again, it's a matter of bandwidth, right?
Yeah, because I'm one person. I'm like, I know at the coffee shop I have, a team, but the team is really the crew. Like,
Right.
I'm the one really doing everything else, but the team is really like, they're all skilled at something specific. They do sound, they do.
So now I want to ask you this, because before we started having the full conversation, we were talking about how right now we're at a point where whatever successes that we find with one channel, we're essentially investing back into growing another channel, like different verticals, right? Now that you are about to set on this journey of creating this original IP as a separate standalone channel, are you like, how are you dividing your time and how are you dividing your resources?
You know what? This is exactly what I'm trying to figure out. I wish I could just be like, yeah, I have like an amazing schedule where I like do this and every single day and that. But I also audition, which comes up randomly. I also have a part-time job. So this is exactly what I'm trying to figure out. I think I have to see, first what's going to happen with the coffee shop. If it is going to be like how many episodes will be in season 2, how long that will take to make. But in the meantime, I do feel like I need to be doing the green screen stuff too, because that, like you said, you got to keep the algorithm and everything going like day to day. You can't just abandon that. So right now I am trying to figure out how to like do both. Right now I've been either focusing on green screen stuff or coffee shop. I've been kind of like one or the other. The nice thing though about the green screen stuff is that if I come up with an idea, it's just a couple lines, I write it, I can shoot it quickly. It's not that hard to do in terms of production. So I can kind of keep it up if I think of something good.
Do you have an output goal? Where you're trying to upload like once a week, 5 times a week, like once a day? Like, yeah, what's your output goal if you have one?
My dream scenario with the coffee shop is that we could like everybody get together, let's say like once or twice a month, and then get the episodes for the month in. Let's say, or let's say we meet once a month, shoot 4 episodes each time, maybe even more. But in my mind, it's like we meet less, get a bunch of episodes, have them coming out weekly. And then on top of that, maybe I have like 2 to 3 regular videos a week. Okay. That's a high goal, but that would be what I hope for.
Yeah. And right now, what is the current output? Is it just like I feel compelled to do a green screen today? I'm going to do it.
Kind of. It's like I think I would like to do at least like 3 videos a week, but it also just depends on my actual life. I think lately I also started to realize like, well, it's been 3 years now that I've been doing this, and I can't just like donate my life to TikTok, and I want to be able to still go on trips, and I want to still be able to like do things, and I can't. I think when you are kind of working for yourself, you can just like only do that. At first I was so intense. I was like, I have to have a new video every single day until I have a following. If I kept doing that, I'm sure I'd have a bigger following now. But that is not very sustainable. And I'm realizing this is like a long game. This isn't like I'm going to do TikTok for 6 months and see what happens. Like I kind of thought that's what it would be at first. Now it's like, this is part of my job. So what is actually sustainable? And I need to go out and get inspiration. Like if I'm in my apartment looking at my 4 walls writing, like how am I going to get inspiration? I have to go to parties and I have to go to events to meet these characters that I'm going to then write about. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you got to do research.
I have to do research.
Yeah.
And people are so funny. Like people in New York are so funny. All the characters, the bros are funny. We take everything so seriously. It's so absurd. So I need to meet these people and like get inspired, you know? What are you going to write about if you have no life?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if there's anything that we could help. You know what I mean? Like anything that we could provide insight or value.
Yeah, well, first of all, I feel like what we were just talking about, like the balance, I'm so curious how you guys balance all of this with like your personal life and how you structure. I think balance and structure is one thing I'm like trying to figure out. I don't want to be all or nothing, you know? I want it to be sustainable, like a normal job.
Yeah.
It's not a normal job, but you know.
I actually think the best way to do it is to treat it like a normal job. We have a corporate offsite at the end of the year to try to figure out what our goals are going to be. We meet at the top of the week as a team to figure out what the goals for the week are going to be. We have breakout meetings the day. Like I think success and sustainability will only happen from treating it like a regular job. Right? Because otherwise, this job is all consuming.
It's all, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you can just be doing this all the time.
Yeah.
You can be making videos every day. You can,
For sure.
yeah.
And that's actually like, that's how, you know, at least I'll speak for myself. I used to live. One of the things I learned from him is just, carving out that space and that time in a very rigid way. It's like, hey guys, I'm going to be offline from this time to this time. Because if you don't do that, to your point, you're not going to have the energy to stay creative, the energy to perform, the energy to essentially just continue doing the thing. So our schedules are pretty rigid. So we come in, you were asking earlier, we come in every Thursdays for Creators Lunch. We come in every Friday for Righteous Eats. We shoot Righteous Eats on Tuesdays typically. Wednesdays is a complete research day for me where I do nothing. That's where I'm watching videos, I'm listening to podcasts, I'm reading, I'm therapy, whatever it might be. Like that's, you know, so we try to do that.
Yeah. So Wednesdays for me is now I'm going to start focusing on going back to making my personal content, like Jaeki Cho content. Because the past 24 months have been just heavy focus on building Righteous Eats. So now people know me as the food guide, whatever that means. You know what I mean? So now we need to kind of get back into, building my own content, wrote like Wheelhouse. Yeah. And then Mondays is when we do all of our meetings. So, you know, from like 10 a.m. to like 3, 4, 5 p.m. we're just having back-to-back meetings with everybody that we need to check in with.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's been working thus far, you know what I mean? But also is interesting because he said that the most successful cases and the most successful people, they tend to always make huge sacrifices. So when I had the most increase in follower count was when I was not leaving my little table and chair for like 10 hours a day. I was just making videos, posting, commenting back to every comment that I got.
Yeah.
And you know, I saw the biggest increase in follower count. Like I went from 0 to like 300,000 on TikTok in the span of like a few months. And you know, I went from like 10,000 to like maybe 100,000 on Instagram in the span of a few months. And those moments, I was probably the most out of shape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I was just, like I didn't like, there were times like I didn't step out of the house for like 3 days straight. Just bad hygiene, you know what I mean? Like, and again, like you have to sometimes you got to make some of those sacrifices in order for you to get to that next step. You know what I mean?
For sure. I feel like I did this a bit too, where I was like, no, I need to have a new video every day. I need to shoot like a bunch of videos in one day. I just have to do this. I think over time now, I am trying to find like the better balance of it, because it does seem like this is going to be a thing for a long time. So I'm trying to figure out, but also I'm just one person, and I've got these other jobs. So I do think it's like, I feel like I'm racing against the clock a lot, because there's just so much you can be doing. Like you said, there's always so much you can do.
I want to ask you this. What is your, what's the biggest bottleneck for you to get to the next step? Whatever it is.
That's such a good question. I think it might be time. It might be time, because I still have like my part-time job, and it's not nothing, this job. I mean, it's like 20 hours a week is pretty significant, and also it's like marketing, I'm not like, it's like a legit job.
Yeah.
So
you can't just be aloof.
Yeah, you have to be involved, and it's a small nonprofit. There's like 5 people on this team. So it's taking up some brain power every day. It's also every day. It's not like it's 2 days a week and then the rest I can spend the whole day.
Yeah.
And then if I, let's say, get an audition, or I have things going on in that arena too, then I don't have time to make videos or do anything with videos. So I think my weeks are I never know what the week will be like. When you're an actor, you can get called to do things like very last minute. And so I have a bit of like an unusual schedule, and trying to fit it all in, like fit everything in time-wise. I think that, and then also let's not forget the psychological element of all of this. Like if you put a video out there, you thought it would do well, it doesn't do well, you're like,
crickets.
Oh, I guess I'm not funny anymore. I will like compare myself to me 2 weeks ago and be like, it was the golden age. Like I was so funny back then. Like, oh my God, I'll like watch my own videos and be like, who is she? Like another person. She was so funny. And it was like me 2 weeks ago. And I'm like, that's like psychotic. But like, that's how I look at it, because the internet moves so quickly.
Yeah, it is. It is. And also they chew out the juice and then spit you out as quickly, Mm-hmm. But the reason why I asked you about the bottleneck is because it seems like this job is consuming a lot of your time. And you have to do it in order for you to probably fill this delta, like economical delta, right? Yeah. So what would make you say, yo, I'm going to quit this job and then invest that 20 hours a week into building my own content?
I think right now I get pretty consistent brand deals, but you never really know when they're coming. And then I also make money off of commercials, like acting stuff. But again, you don't know when that will come. I think right now, like this job gives me like the monthly, I know I'm going to get paid every month. And I think until I feel like I have almost like a guaranteed monthly income, or maybe if the same brand deals paid a lot more, like if they were still coming, we don't know when they'll come in, but they paid a lot more, maybe that would be. So
for you to be able to stretch it out longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, got you. Do you have any advice for that?
Yeah, do you have advice? I would love advice.
I think that, again, time is finite, and at the end of the day, it's trying to figure out where you're going to get the biggest return on your time. And I can make a case for, I mean, just looking at it in a very measured way. Okay, cool. How much you need every month? Let's say $5,000, $10,000. Let's say you need $10,000 every month. Okay, cool. Job, I'm totally making up numbers. The job gives you $5,000. You get one brand deal, gives you $4,000, and then you get a commercial, a day rate commercial, whatever. You get $1,000 minus any sort of residuals or anything like that. Cool. So that's how you make your $10,000. Well, on the brand deal side, could you get $8,000 instead of $4,000, right? If you had, 300,000 more followers or whatever it might be, right? So I think it's doing that, a bit of that, and understanding like, okay, cool. how can I invest and really start to, because you can't do it all. I mean, I can make a case for, I think, sure, being paid for a commercial right now might seem okay, but I would actually say that that's costing you more than they're actually giving you. Without knowing the amounts, right? I mean, why don't you just share your testimony of what you went through?
2020 pandemic, I was just making a lot of content because, you know, we had the bandwidth to do it because my job, I'm a business partner. I'm a business owner. I'm a partner at a retail store. And then my business partner for that retail store. And I also started a small like sales agency. I mean, you worked in fashion. So we were overseeing like wholesale. And we would also do these like ad hoc activations for brands.
Marketing.
Yeah, marketing. So yeah, I was doing that. And so, you know, like I had a consistent paycheck, but then in addition to that, like I had to go out and hunt for additional like ad hoc opportunities. So that slowed down in 2020, but then in 2021, that started to pick up again. So my content started to get affected because I just didn't have the same bandwidth. So I was trying to like juggle both of these things. And at the end of 2021, he proposed the idea like, yo, like let's just burn the sales and you quit your job and let's just go full time with, you know, this content creation stuff.
Yeah.
And luckily I was able to anchor a big brand deal from a partner. That was a 6-figure brand deal that I was able to secure at the end of 2021. But that also was after like we did a bunch of like essentially like pro bono projects for this particular brand.
Right.
And we built that rapport throughout 2021. And then, you know, going into 2022, because we had this safety net, we were like, all right, cool. Like now I feel somewhat comfortable. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, we probably burned through that in the first 6 months anyway. But, you know, I still felt somewhat comfortable that, okay, we could go all in. So 2022, January, I mean, I was still nervous, right? Because like now I don't have the safety net of getting a consistent check every month. But that's also when, you know, bad hygiene, just sitting in my chair for 10 hours a day. Like I did that for the first like 6 months or so. And I saw a huge increase in my personal account, TikTok. The brand deals that used to be from anywhere between 2,500 to 5,000, like we started to ask for 15,000, 20,000. Now we don't always get those type of bags, but it just, the amount that you could ask for, it just increased like by 5-fold essentially, because now you understand your worth. Now you could actually say no to certain opportunities. Now you could actually be more strategic about the time that you invest in. And what we ended up doing with those brand deals, I mean, I didn't go and get a chain and bought a new car. By the way, I still don't have a car. You know, what we ended up doing was, yo, let's reinvest back into the business. Because again, like you said, it's time, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't just be editing my own videos. You know what I mean? Like after a certain point, in order for you to SOP and scale, like you need to have other people that could help you with the process. So we were like, yo, let's hire people. Like, let's make this into a company. Let's make this into essentially a media company of its own. And, you know, we actually haven't profited from Righteous Eats up until this point because we invested back everything into the business. So that's essentially where we're at right now. And, you know, even this creators lunch is us investing into this new vertical. And that's pretty much, I mean, did I miss anything?
So aside from you just spending the most time on it, what other advantages or what other things changed for you to be able to go from 2,500, asking for 2,500 a brand deal to 15,000 a brand deal?
What did I touch upon? I'm
well, you just said it was time and the fact that you were spending all of your waking time
like
making videos and consistency, right?
I think that's also a thing because I don't have consistency anymore. I did, but in order to maintain that consistency, I think it was just the time was really like getting to be a lot. Actually,
yeah, to your point, I think it was the understanding of harboring a real community. That was a big differentiator. So, you know, so there might be creators out there that have way more followers than the accounts that we've created. And they might even get more views, but the engagement might be something that is very one-off. Like it could just be a quick transactional relationship. Whereas we've built a real community where we invested not only in from a digital standpoint, but then we could actually we actually touch these people. Touch these people as in like we're shaking hands, we're inviting them to IRL events. And you know, that type of engagement is okay, I might have 1 million followers less than that particular creator on TikTok, but that vanity metric might not necessarily apply to us because our engagement is quotation mark real, you know.
So you have
So I could actually ask you for this bag that might be like, you might look at it like, whoa, like you as in the brand or the agency might look at it like, whoa, where'd you come up with this number? But it's like, nah, like, but the engagement that we get is significantly different than some other vanity metric that you're looking at, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing that we tend to focus on, like building a real community. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's always interesting to try to figure out how to do this as one person, but I think having a vision for where it could go. I think I have a vision for where the coffee shop could go. That's like something that involves other people. The sketches, sometimes it kind of feels like it just has to do with like whether I think of a funny idea. It's kind of dependent on just me thinking of funny ideas or me having the time to do it. And I think maybe if I had more time and I was just like, no, I'm going to just like the way that you guys said, like treating it like a normal job. Maybe that's like a good move.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping you would touch upon. Like, you know, touching community, definitely. But that was a strategic, planned out sort of thing from day one, right? And that really came from the fact that we treated this like a job, you know? You know, when you're a Fortune 500 company, you're planning, you know, 8 quarters in advance, right? You know your next 2 years, right? You're not asking what's in the next month. You're asking, that's why the question is what's your 5-year goal? What's your 10-year goal? So for us, we're very much from day one, we knew that like we would have events. From day one, we knew that we would like who we would cover, how we would cover, what markets we're going into, you know, like we would be very strategic that way.
Yeah, it's funny with this because I feel like sometimes there's so many different types of creators and some people, everyone gets into it for a different reason and has a different goal, or maybe they didn't know this would happen and now they have goals they're making up along the way. But coming up with something as a goal, I think it's like a moving target a little bit.
Yeah, but for sure. I mean, I think the thing is you have to be disciplined enough to know the direction that you're going, but flexible enough to be able to pivot, right?
Right.
But if you don't have a North Star or a direction that you're going towards, right?
Yeah.
Then you're just going to be floundering, right? Masa's quote, right? You know, a person, you know, no wind is favorable to someone without a port, right? So like you might end up somewhere else, but like if you're not going in a direction and with a specific goal, like it's really hard to win or sustain. We're obsessed with that question of like, yeah, where's your bottlenecks? Where, you know, is it I mean, it seems like you already have a really solid team in terms of your managers, your, you know, agents, all of that kind of stuff. But like, yeah, what other things could we do to help?
I think sharing this type of knowledge is really helpful because I think it's like an unprecedented career and there isn't always somebody to look at as like, here is what somebody did before you. Because there obviously have been a lot of people that have done this, but
well, who do you look at? I see past and I'm like, I think you're very smart and deliberate with how you're going after these things, right? Is there someone that you look at and you're like, I want to model after this? I'm sure there is, right?
I think years ago it could have been like Issa Rae, it could have been like Rachel Bloom or like
exactly.
you know,
That makes
the
sense.
Broad City Girls. But now that all of that, like this old format of making a web series, which is kind of what we did. I feel like we did this at like the tail end of when this was possible. It got me representation. It didn't get us a full on show, but while I still obviously like look up to all those people, the landscape has completely changed compared to when they were coming up. So now I'm kind of almost like looking to myself to just be like, okay, what ideas do I have? Because there are people like Caitlin Riley, you know, who are like really funny, great comedians who are now doing things in the traditional space from that. But, you know, to a point, that also has to do with who offers you an audition. Who there's still like people gatekeeping that happens
100%.
there.
Right.
So I think for me now, I'm kind of like, what can I do, like from my side, and even if it's something that hasn't really had a precedent to it yet, that's
I think your attitude and your perspective on this, like, we're kindred spirits.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you just went out and did it. You cold emailed people, cold called people, and you just built the web series, and you're like, fuck it, we're just gonna make it work. That's something that, like, I wholeheartedly agree with, and I support. I think, you know, from having this conversation with you, I think what you need, you know, help is someone who could essentially help you structure and create a roadmap for you that is a bit more strategic.
Like the day to day. I
Yeah.
think that's what really, I can see that my bigger goal is to grow, obviously, to do these certain projects I have in mind, but then it's more like day to day. Sometimes there's so much you can do. I get overwhelmed. I'm like, okay, I have all these things I could do today. And then I also have all these things I have to do today. And then somehow then the day is just like it's 8 p.m. and I'm like, whoa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Which is lucky. I will say this whole thing is lucky in the first place because I did not feel this way when I worked in a corporate job. I was like, it's only 3. It's only 3:05. It's only 3:07, you know?
I think the two things that stand out for me are getting like really honing in on what you want to do and despite like don't try to back into a product, making a product that you think people would like. Just do the thing that you want to do unapologetically. Because I think whether you're trying to sell a show or get an audition, that's always going to be mandated by the gatekeepers, and it'll always be determined by the way that the wind is blowing, right? So like, even if you really break down how Issa got her deal or Broad, like there were different mandates at the networks, at the streamers, right? And now a lot of that stuff is changing. Like, again, we have a lot of friends in traditional too, and the biggest showrunners, and they're like, oh, well, no one's buying or this or that. So, and even for us, you know, we could have started, I come from the publishing world. We could have asked and waited for Eater to green light or Condé Nast to green light what we're doing with Righteous Seats. And we're like, no, we're just going to do it regardless. Hey, we think that like our community should go out and support these restaurants. Can we literally just pay them? Well, who's going to sponsor it? We'll just pay them. It's $250. It's 10 the first 10 people to go to a restaurant and tag the restaurant, we'll pay $25. Okay. So we mentally said $250 per restaurant. We'll just do it. Or you could just wait for Marcus or Citibank or whoever to say, okay, Venmo, Square to say, okay. Right. So I think just given how far you've come and the fact that we are kindred spirits and that you're like, yo, I want a manager. I'm just going to cold call. Like, I'm going to make it happen. Like that's your superpower. So I think to really hone in on that superpower, it's like, okay, what's the thing that you want? If it's a 22-minute series that's streaming on the thing, make that the thing and just go towards it. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the first thing. And if you're that clear in the goal, I think the second thing will happen, and that's exactly what you're saying in scheduling your time. Because then you're like, yo, if that's the thing that I want, I know that, look, Coffee Shop has to be shot on Sundays, guys. I'm gonna make this happen on Sundays. I'm gonna pay you guys $200 a day. I'm gonna pay you $100 a day. I need the time from this to this. We're gonna bank 4 episodes every Sunday, right? And I'm going to edit it, or I'm going to get an editor. Like, all that stuff is just blocking and tackling. But that becomes easier when you're like, look, we're going to do this. I'm going to get this show sold. Or you know what? No, I'm not going to get this show sold. I want to get this to 100 million views total in season 2. And then if you do that, what ends up inevitably happening is the streamers will come to you and say, as long as that's your goal, you'll be shocked. They'll come to you and they'll say, oh, hey, have you thought about doing this on the, like, this is all what's happening to us.
This part is what I feel like I need to just start believing anyway. Because
totally.
I think like already the things that have happened, if I could see this now, like when I first started, I'd be like, how did that happen? Because you see it happen to other people, but you just don't think you're going to get the email that's like, here's a partnership, or here's this, or here's that. But it is true. Like it just does. It just does if you have the goal and you make it and you work on it. Then something, like it may not be exactly what you planned, something will happen. And I think sometimes that is an important thing to remember. Also in the day-to-day. if you have a day that like, I'm sure we all go through this, a day that like maybe a video doesn't get as many views or you get like more hate comments than usual or whatever, on that day doesn't always feel like, you know, you're going to get these bigger goals, you're going to reach them. But
So one thing I decided to start doing with hate comments is I just block them now.
you just block the person.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So that was up until this point, up until this year, I would let these people just rock. Like they occasionally check in, they say something smart, they say something stupid. And I'm like, all right, cool. And I try to engage with all of them. Like I did everything from, I literally called them to go on a live with me.
Really?
I've done multiple. I actually went on a live with this kid that said something along the lines of like, "Yeah, I want to kick you in your face so that your teeth gets obliterated, whatever."
And you went live.
And I
with
went on
him.
live with this kid, and then come to find out, like he wasn't in a good place, like in life, like he just wasn't in a good place, and I was like, it kind of gave me a glimpse of who these people might be, you know what I mean? And I was like. And almost made me sympathetic to some of these people. So, but then also like what you said, like it kind of takes after a certain point, it takes it takes chunks out of your day, right? Like it takes, even though it might be like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but you're like, yo, I could have spent that 15 minutes taking a shower.
Yeah,
you know, like,
and it lingers in your brain
Yeah,
too.
why do I need to deal with that when, you know, you get like out of 100 comments, maybe 95 and 8 of them are positive. But those 2 comments, like maybe attacking your identity, attacking the way you look, attacking the way you sound, it lingers in you. So you're like, yo, why do I focus on this when I should be showing love to the 98 other people that showed me love? So why do I need these people in my life? What am I trying to prove to try to convince these 2 people? Or it might not even be people. It could be just some random AI.
It could be a bot.
It could be a bot, you know, like operating out of some troll farm somewhere. You know what I mean? So it's like, yo, I'm gonna just block these folks.
That's a good idea. Do you respond to DMs or do you like?
I always do. Yeah, I actually. So in the beginning, I try to reply in real time, and then after a certain point, I just kind of let it pile up, and then I just go in and then just reply to everybody.
That takes time too.
Yeah, that does. Yeah.
DMs.
But you got to look at it as you're essentially doing customer service.
Even the negative ones, like do you ever get negative?
So like
ones?
the negative DMs, like I try to respond and then I might say something funny back.
Yeah.
And then if they get agitated, I screen grab it and I share it on my story.
I don't respond to a lot of that. I mean,
I think it's also different. Like I'm a dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
if I responded to all these DMs, I feel like I would maybe give the wrong message. Like I don't want to give the wrong message.
That's another thing, right? Like I mean, as a woman, like you're also exposed.
Can you share what kind of critiques? Like, what are they saying? Like, oh, you're I don't understand what it would be, or you don't want to. I mean,
I would say like comments, like hate comments would be. I mean, obviously you'll get the ones that are like, "This is not funny," which is like whatever. But then you'll get like. People, I've been told to get a nose job. I've been told to, you know, like people say stuff about your appearance. Sometimes
do
you do
they
get a
ever
racist.
attack you about your race?
Yeah. I've had
we
like,
get all that.
Yeah, racist comments, especially if I make anything about Europe. Like I've done like characters. I can do a French accent, so I've done like French characters, and usually those, you know, people like those, but people get really angry. They're like, what kind of a French person is this? I take it as a compliment in a way because I'm like, well, they clearly think my accent is. I'm just American. I'm not even French at all. But they'll be like, go back to Morocco, and I'm like,
So they actually thought that you speak French.
You think I'm French Moroccan?
Yeah.
And then someone else is like, she's obviously from Quebec, and I'm like, all right, well, this is kind of a compliment because I'm just like straight up American.
That's a huge compliment. You kidding me?
Yeah, so that's all right. But yeah, I think it's stuff like that. People also, I think with the New York space, I don't know. But people, I do a lot of characters that are kind of like bro-y or like people like in Brooklyn who kind of like gentrified Brooklyn.
Right.
But obviously we're talking about characters I'm satirizing.
Yeah.
People will come in and be like, you're a gentrifier. And they'll be like, why don't you make content about these people? And I'm like, well, who did you want me to make fun of here?
Yeah.
First of all, I don't work in real estate development. You know what I mean? I'm commenting on a society that we see every day outside.
Yeah.
And second, I think when people say things like that, they don't think a step further. Like I remember I did like New York neighborhoods as Real Housewives or something years ago. And then people were like, I really think that like Hell's Kitchen should have been like trans or queer. And I'm like, okay, so you want me to dress up as trans or queer? That's what you're asking me to do. You think that would be more appropriate? Like, think about what you're saying for 2 seconds. Like, this is ridiculous.
It is. And a lot of the nuances get missed. And essentially, some people just put together like word vomit.
Yeah.
And because they don't feel like there's repercussions.
But do you see the other side of it too, though, where people are like, "You're this is so good," or your fluency, like you know.
Yeah, okay. Definitely. I mean, it's like you said, like for every 95, I think it's definitely mostly positive. And like, especially even with the DMs, I wouldn't say I get that often like a mean DM. Like that takes guts a little bit from a person to like reach out to you directly. I think it's less scary for them to just post a comment that's mean.
Yeah,
but
100%.
But yeah, there's a lot of positive stuff. And you know, sometimes I've gotten DMs of people being like, your comedy has like gotten me through a really tough time. People who have been sick or who had gone through something really difficult, who like just binged all the videos, and it said that it really helped them. So that stuff is that's like really nice to
And
hear.
that's what I want to focus on. Like whenever people say, yo, like your highlight of this particular eatery has helped this restaurant or introduced me to food that maybe I wouldn't have dared tried before. Like, yeah, that's like, yo, like time. We only have so much time in a week. Why do I need to think about some negative comment, even for 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Like when I could be more appreciative of all the love that we're getting.
Yeah.
To the part about the support that you get. So one of the things that we think about a lot is no matter what, people aren't going to read everything. No matter what, people aren't going to watch everything. So no matter how nuanced or careful you are in what you do, people are going to take away whatever they're going to take away.
That's
Usually the lowest common denominator, right? So like that's usually what it is, right? So just knowing that, instead of trying to fight that, we actually lean into it to say like, okay, cool. If you're part of our community and you get it and you get what we stand for, cool. And if you don't, then that's cool too.
That's fine.
Right. And I think that that's sort of the wave that most real creators are on right now, because like you can't try to appease everyone.
No. And it's this funny thing too, where like sometimes I'll hear about a category of something like food. And I literally, my first thought always is like, what could anyone possibly say about food?
Exactly.
But then obviously, you know exactly what they could say.
Yeah.
And people have said that to me, like, but you make like comedy sketches and they're like harmless. And I stay away from anything like too crazy. Like they're pretty like, you know, I think pretty harmless. But then I'm like, no, you'd be surprised. There's obviously always something anyone could say. People say things on like puppy accounts.
Yeah.
You know,
for sure.
so they're like, this puppy like seems like mean, or I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah.
Well, especially in comedy, in your chosen, you know, market. You know, we've been saying this a lot. Like, I think the best comedians and the best comics are actively trying to purge their audiences. Like, they're trying to get canceled because they're like, hey, you know what? Like, if you don't get my intent and if you don't get what I'm trying to do, like, then it's not for you.
Then it's not for you.
It's not for you.
And I think it's like maybe one day people will look back at this time of social media as like prehistoric, like this time when people were able to just say whatever they want. There's no like real life repercussions at all. There's no, like, you can't just go up to someone and say something insane to them in person, and that's like harassment. You know what I mean?
No,
Like,
that's exactly what I tell certain people in the comments. It's like, yo, you wouldn't say that to me if I meet you in the streets.
Yeah.
no. So one day I think people will look back and be like, oh wow, yeah, that was like the Wild West.
Totally.
But for now, I think it's good for us to like in our own mind figure out how to, because that's not the easiest thing to handle.
Totally.
I think what it is, if I'm having a great day and I see a comment like that, I'm just like, whatever. Like, I'm having a great day. I'm like, this is my life. On a day that I'm already feeling kind of bad, that's where the comments might be
It's like the
worse.
fuel. Yeah.
Yeah, like, or let's say a video didn't do that well, kind of weird day, and you check and it's like, this is like maybe like the third person to say I should get a nose job, should I? Like, and then obviously it's dumb. You like let it pass, but it can stick with you longer on a day that was weird.
Yeah, it's all good. You're straight. But I think that we should wrap it up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you so much for
Thank
pulling
you.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
thank you for having me.
Yeah.